Hey everybody, it's David. Do you feel fear? Yeah, fear that maybe you're never going to be able to retire, or that you're not going to be financially independent. Maybe you have a fear regarding your health, or something will go wrong with your family. Yes, we all have fears. And is fear always a bad thing? Well, you know what? Hey, here we are. I'm filming this in the month of October. It's the month of Halloween, and maybe that's why this has been so much on my mind. I want to talk about fear. I want to talk about how fear can be a good thing. And hey, if I'm being honest, I'm going to have to say that fear is what started our journey, or especially mine, towards financial independence. So, fear. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, it's David here at David in Progress. We talk about three things. We talk about achieving financial independence, retiring early, and doing your best to live your best life now. Absolutely one of my favorite topics, something we're going to talk about today. Hey, if you're getting any value from this channel, tell the algorithm by giving me a thumbs up. I especially want to see and read your comments so we can talk about this topic. What do you fear when you think about your financial life, and how has that fear actually been a good thing? My son is 9 months old, and that is when I felt a lump underneath my arm and learned that I had cancer. I did the whole cancer thing. I went through chemotherapy, surgery, and all those type of things. And as you can imagine, that brought a bit of fear into my life. It was 5 years after completing that cancer experience when I had this moment where I thought, what would happen if something were to happen to me? What would happen to my family? How would they survive? How would they get through financially? And that fear started something. I wrote down on a Post-it note, I wrote down a date, and that date was my goal, that by the time I reached that date, that we would be financially independent enough that, hey, we could have work optional or perhaps retire early. And a big part of that was thinking that I did not have enough. But here is the great thing. That fear started my journey towards financial independence, where I dug in deep and learned how to live below our means, save at a higher rate, so that if something were to happen, that we would be okay. Instead of letting that financial and that health fear control me, I let it fuel me in a positive way. You see, fear needs fuel. And for most of us, the fuel that we get is a big pile of negative stuff. That fear that everything is going to go wrong, that you're going to lose all your finances. And sometimes I would think I would go all the way down to the pit where we end up homeless and who knows what happened. So why are we so wired for fear? Well, think about it. It's part of the evolutionary process. Go back many, many years ago, and we had to always be looking out for danger. In our minds, that's called the Reticular Activating System. And what that basically is that our minds are wired to always be looking for danger. We want to know if that lion is going to come after us, and we tend to ignore those things that are non-danger so that we can find them. And danger in our lives can take many forms. It can take what's happening in the economy, or what's happening in the finances, or what is happening in your future. And our minds can get so focused that all we see is the negative things, that we focus on what can hurt us versus what can help us. And that's part of the problem. Today's lions, the lions aren't necessarily coming after us, it's the headlines. All around us, we're surrounded by people and things that are trying to tell us about the incoming doom. It is the videos that get the most clicks. It is the news stories that you actually watch. It is that thing that helps drive you forward in maybe in a very negative way. But once you understand that these threats are all around us and what the world is trying to do, you can scan, you can look for other things. I believe strongly in the law of expectations. If you believe good things will happen in your life, they will. If you believe that terrible things will happen, well, unfortunately, they will as well. You have a choice. You have a choice to where you want to be looking every day. And I think that we can all choose to look forward for those positive things. And when we do, we will receive them in return. What I think you have to do is identify those fears and turn them into purpose. Now, real quick, I want to say, someone that is fearful is different than someone who is just negative. There's a difference. I know a lot of negative people. I absolutely try and stay away from them. Fear is just worrying about something, but turn it into a purpose. If you fear your financial future, hey, maybe it is time to quit ignoring that future and dig deep and learn a little bit. Maybe today's the day that you're going to raise that 401k by just 1%. Maybe today's the day that you're going to break open that credit card bill and actually look into it deeply and figure out, maybe I should not be spending so much money on this or that. Maybe on that credit card bill, today's the day that you get that card and you tear it up and you decide that I am going to make the sacrifices needed to pay off these cards. A lot of people use that fuel, that fear fuel, to just burn themselves down to get smaller. You can use your fear to make you taller, to pull you forward or push you forward to a better future. Fear can be a good thing. Fear can be a terrible master, but it is also a great motivator. You'd be amazed the difference that just making a 1% change could make in your life over a long period of time. And I know you can do it. Yes, we have experienced a lot of fear. There is the fear that came from that first cancer experience. There were the over 20 layoffs that I went through in my career, finally getting caught up in that last one. After all those years and reaching that 2024 note date where I had my goal to be financially independent and retire early, hey, that's when I learned about my heart condition, a new fear. And it got me thinking about all the lessons that I learned about fear over these years. When I was going through that corporate life, living in that cubicle, I had this little mantra I would say in my head on my way to work on Monday. Walking in, I'd get out of the car and I'm taking those steps, heading towards that front door. And I would say to myself, David, you are passionate, you are persistent, and you are positive. You will win this day. Every day I would say that. And I did my best every day to win that day. Now, I'm not really sure what the future holds, but I have an even better mantra. I say, David, you are passionate. You are persistent. You are positive. I do not know what tomorrow brings, but today I can. So today I will. Fear now reminds me not of what I could lose. It reminds me of what I have. So how do you let fear serve you? The first thing you have to do is acknowledge it. Recognize that we all have fear. And once you recognize it and you have it named, you can redirect it to be something else. Next, turn fear into focus. I tell you what, when you're getting chased by that lion, you have some really good focus on where you want to go. Think of that fear as coming up behind you and let it give you that focus that you need to actually take action. You need to run. You need to go somewhere and you need to do something to make your life different, or that lion is going to catch you. Another thing is to turn that fear into gratitude. Yes, you might be experiencing some financial woes, or perhaps you're worried about your financial future, but you got today. Today is the day that you can do something, that you can make a small step to make a big difference for you later. And do that in a state of gratitude. Another thing is turning that fear into fuel. I have very strict rules about who I associate with, the music that I listen to, the news that I watch. I don't want any of that fear noise around me. Yeah, I'll read the article. I'm as guilty as anyone clicking on it, but I don't let fear drive my day. I'm not going to let it drive my life. I have no tolerance for people around me that are spreading fear. Get that stuff out of your life. You may have heard the saying, garbage in equals garbage out. Fill your life with good things. And if you do that, good things will happen. When you choose your environment carefully, you control the direction of your life. It leads towards positivity versus leading towards despair. So I'm going to ask you again, what do you fear? But I'm also going to ask you to twist it around and think about how has that fear actually been positive in your life. Leave a comment. Let me know some of those fear things that were actually good for you. That when you look back at it now, you realize, I am so thankful I have that fear because it led to something positive. Whatever that fear may be, take a small action today. Why? Well, because today you can, so today you will. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being part of my channel. I just can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you. and how much you help drive me forward in such a positive way. Thank you for being part of David in Progress.